Welcome, everybody, to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. It is November 20th, 2021. Tonight, we'll be talking about the Xbox 20th anniversary live stream that happened over on Monday and all the announcements, all the fun that came out of that. We'll also be talking about the Game Awards nomination list, a bunch of games that got nominated, of course, all of those that are in the running for Game of the Year. And, of course, we'll be talking about more of Grand Theft Auto, the definitive edition, the things that happened this week, of course, and Rockstar's apology. With that, of course, it is November 20th, 2021. We're going to roll our intro and get things started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup for the week of November 20th, 2020. It is Friday. It is, where's my date? It's September 18th, 2020, here to our first story, and this is actually breaking news for all of us right now here, too. Figured this is a kind of a big one to cover, of course, with who it is. Joined via Discord by Kyle, because we're in the midst of a pandemic still, and of course, everything is all kinds of crazy. So, this thing is a chocker. I mean...
yeah, it's a beast.
It's huge. Doing that we had the Resident Evil stuff, that they were successful with Castlevania. Welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. And it's the news time. I am joined, of course, by Kyle via Discord. Kyle, hello.
What's up?
Man. And here we are, everybody. Again, welcome. It is November 20th. We are that close to stuffing our faces with turkey, with Battlefield 2042, with Halo Infinite. I mean, could you really stuff your face, though, with video game content? I'm sure you probably could, right, Kyle?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, because the news, that guy's over here with me. So there he is. There he is. Hi, Kyle.
Hey.
Hey. So we got
I'm still here.
You still exist. You are still not necessarily a figment of anybody's imagination. So kudos to you for that one, dude. All right, so we got a lot of interesting things here to talk about going into the news this, today, I guess.
This today. Yeah.
This today, God, it's been a day. It's been a day. I had to do a whole new networking setup here, and I think that's probably what is causing the problems with our multi-stream, because we're not live to YouTube right now. We're just live on Facebook, but we're live to YouTube right now. So here we are. Anyway, of course, let's just hop right into the fun of the news that we've got going on this week. And of course, the first thing we've got to talk about is the Xbox 20th anniversary live stream and all of the juicy details that came out of that. So first question, Kyle, is did you actually get to watch any of this after the event? Because I know you couldn't watch it live.
No, I didn't.
Why not? What happened?
I don't know. I'll be honest, I got caught up in Forza. I've been playing a lot of Forza.
Well, lucky for you, Forza is a Microsoft product, and here we are talking about Microsoft stuff. So
right?
I'll help. I will help guide your journey and your adventure into the world of what was talked about and announced. So
I know about some of it, so...
yes, you do.
But,
all right.
yeah.
So I'm going to start off with probably the biggest announcement, of course. So Monday was November 15th, and for a lot of people who may not be aware, November 15th, 2001 was the launch of the original Xbox. And in tandem with that was the original launch of Halo Combat Evolved. Really, it was the premier launch title for the original Xbox at that point in time. And to this day, the original Halo is such a big part of story, big part of the way FPS has changed, especially as things evolved into the online components of stuff. And here we are 20 years later, and the big part of the live stream on Monday was the announcement that Halo Infinite's multiplayer would go live that day. So we on Monday got our chance to go ahead and step right into Halo Infinite in what they're calling a beta form. And it means that there's still bugs that they're working on. It's still a few things that they're trying to address before the full release of Halo Infinite in December. But we got it, though. It's there. It dropped. And that is the only game I have been playing all week. Seriously.
Well, I've played a little bit of it. Not nearly as much as you. Like I said, the Forza thing.
You and that Forza thing, man. Jeez. But yes, exactly. Is that... I know you haven't been, but How are you feeling though right now, Kyle? Because we've played a little bit. We played
Mhm.
the technical play test, but now we're playing it in a form where there's been all of the tweaks and adjustments from the feedback they got during the technical play test. How are you feeling about playing Halo Infinite now?
During the waves or whatever they were calling them of the playtest, the ones that we got to participate in, I felt good about the game then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I still feel really good about it now. It feels really balanced. It's probably got the most balanced some of the guns have ever felt. Especially like the battle rifle,
Okay.
or not the battle rifle, the assault rifle, just the basic one, the machine gun.
Okay.
Like I feel like I've never played a Halo game where it's felt this strong, and I don't know, the movement feels good, everything about it just feels good. So I'm really enjoying what I've played so far.
Well, that's awesome, and that's exactly what I was kind of hoping that you would say, though. Anyway, is that you've actually been enjoying it? I mean, I know, of course, with some of these multiplayer shooters and that, I think you and I have both agreed that we're not the best players at a lot of these ones, and just kind of have
Right.
kind of like dumb luck, like you with that 2 flag capture. Right then and there, when I was having
Oh
my own
yeah.
problems, and then I ended up with the top score in another like just game of Slayer. I think that was some really good stuff, and that actually felt good. This
Yeah.
version of Halo felt awesome. And what it feels like, and I described this to you in our chat, is that this feels like what the natural progression should have been going from Halo 3, and this should really have been what Halo 4 was. It
Oh,
just
absolutely.
it really feels like that. And I mean, if that's what you agree with, hey, cool. I don't have to ask that question. But
Yeah, no, absolutely.
it really does. It just feels nice is the best way to put it.
Oh yeah. No, it's just it feels so smooth. It feels like you said, the natural progression from Halo 3, but more modernized. The movement feels like a more modern game, Yeah, just I don't know. I felt like a lot of the early Halo games, you felt really light, but you were so cumbersome because you didn't move very fast. But this one, it feels like it got every little thing right.
It really did. I can't agree more. It really feels like they hit the nail on the head with the multiplayer. There are still a few things that they are working on right now.
Oh yeah.
Um, but in the grand scheme of it all, at least it feels nice. I do kind of wish there would be a few more maps, though. Like, I feel like we've only played on maybe 3 or 4 different maps overall across the different
Well,
modes.
I think there's supposed to be a total of like 8 or something out right now, maybe 10. But I
Hmm.
can't be for certain on that because, like I said, haven't played nearly as much. But the only thing I think I want to add is, to me, I've been craving like an arena style shooter for a long time. I've been saying since like 2019, Unreal needs to come back and make Unreal Tournament a thing again. But
Absolutely.
this scratches my itch in all the ways.
Well, that's exactly how I feel with all of it more than anything is that I'm seriously that exact same way. Like it's hitting the nail on the head of exactly what I want to play. I mean, yes, we got Battlefield 2042 right now that just officially launched yesterday. Went into early play last Friday. But there's things about Battlefield that they're really still working on that Halo just really seems to not even just fill the gaps on. It just feels like a better experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, Battlefield to me still it feels like it needs so much polish. Like it to me feels way rushed. But I had those same problems in the beta. I haven't had nearly the issues in the actual game,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still there. I still have them, so I don't know.
Well,
And it's lacking in content for
uh,
me. I mean, there's still a
yeah.
lot, and it hits the portal is excellent. I love what it has to offer, but it also as a whole game does not necessarily feel complete.
Yeah, but it does at least feel playing Portal on Battlefield 2042 feels at least a little bit more for like the base stuff like Battlefield 1942, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, the stuff that they've got together there for playing kind of like those original maps and setup. That one at least feels nice. The stuff in the regular Battlefield 2042 games like Conquest and Hazard Zone and that really needs some tweaks and adjustments that I just don't know what the time is going to take for them to actually introduce those. But at least we got Halo.
Right.
At least we got Halo to play though.
And it works really well.
That is fact. That is 100% fact. But let's move on here to the rest of the stuff we actually had announced though too. So Microsoft did also announce they had a kind of teaser trailer for it though too, is what they call Power On: The Story of Xbox. So back, God, when was this? I think back after the Xbox release, there was actually a book that came out called Inside the Xbox, and it talked with a lot of industry insiders, developers, and that about the history of the Xbox. And this is a book I've read a couple different times. So what I'm curious to know is what exactly is this Power On: The Story of Xbox going to actually, what it's actually going to fill in, compared to what the book actually covered.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, and this is something I got a little bit of info from other sources on YouTube and online reading articles that it's supposed to cover more of, the progression of Xbox from, its conception to where it is now, but, supposed to be more inclusive and have more info as far as the insiders go.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like maybe we'll get some of those, like maybe some interesting details on things. We'll hear about, especially one of the big things that they're going to focus on, of course, is a lot of the challenges that they ran into. The first and foremost one I think we can all recognize is the red ring of death that we had on the Xbox 360. But they'll also talk about, of course, the industry's reaction to how they were positioning the Xbox One when they first announced it, how it's going to be more of a media center type box that also played video games instead of being a true gaming console. And then of course how they backpedaled on it and made the changes to make it to go back to really what it should have been there at launch.
Now they've launched one to great success, so I guess they were a little too innovative too fast maybe there.
Yeah, and I mean even one part here just came up here in the trailer behind us is the size of the Duke controller too. That was one thing, and how they had to release a second version of the controller to actually make it more easier to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But even so, I mean, that's going to be a very neat thing to see actually come out of what they're going to be showing off. I think that's going to be a big interesting thing to at least be able to sit back and watch it. It's going to be across a bunch of different platforms. That also includes YouTube. As long as it's not behind, I don't know if YouTube Red, I hate to say this, I don't even know if YouTube Red even really exists anymore. I haven't really heard many people promoting things.
Just YouTube Premium now.
Okay.
Honestly.
But it will be at least on YouTube. So we could watch it there without it appears to be any sort of cost to us, which is kind of neat. So
that's cool.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, of course, into the next thing here is that, so I'm reading here, this is the kind of TLDR from the actual Xbox news posting website. So they also announced 70 additional backwards compatibility titles being added to the Xbox library for play. However, what we found out later on after this, though, is that those titles are going to be the very last ones added to the backwards compatibility library, which means as of right now, that is it. We're not going to be seeing any more games added to this library for the foreseeable future. And Microsoft has said this before, that the original problem was more technical limitations more than anything. And they more so, I guess, really weren't sure if they could do it. But then they announced it back in 2015 and were able to do it. And I mean, there's hundreds of backwards compatible titles now. So it's not like there's nothing, like it's not like there isn't anything that you could get into, or a lack thereof of things to get into. But it is sad to see that we've now hit the limit for technical, legal, and licensing problems.
Right.
But
I mean, it's kind of an unfortunate effect of media, though.
It is,
especially if with game companies and studios that smaller ones can go belly up just after one game, and the license is left in limbo forever on certain games like that. But you know, it just with the way games progress and stuff, and to keep up with so many licenses so often,
Mm-hmm.
that would be insane.
Yeah, and with the number of licenses that have actually existed out there too for all these different things, and the fact that sometimes the requirements for trying to relicense, um, some of them may end up taking years, just because the way things
Yeah,
have changed hands. It's the research to go into finding out who owns the actual license now.
it's super unfortunate that there's no like continual licensing, or eventually it's just like the license is up and it's free game. That I mean, that'd be kind of a crummy way to think about it, but I mean, at least other people would have a chance to work on that same project if they wanted. But they could set up a time limit on it, like 25 years or something.
Yeah, there very well could be something like that. But again, it also comes down even into like royalties as well. Like, what's the
Yeah,
actual cost going to be, royalty and the licensing fee for extending it out that long, too? I mean, they're going to have a
right.
base set because they expect, oh, we're going to sell this game for so long. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Why couldn't they do something like that? And maybe that'll end up being the case to make things easier for this type of thing. But who knows? Uh,
Yeah.
of course, some other things that were talked about there too. Let's see. I know there were a couple other things here. Their list kind of shortens out here. I'm trying to remember if there really was anything else. A lot of it really in the a lot of it in the stream, of course, was a lot of like reminiscing and a lot of kind of just talking about some of the historical stuff. Like you had the original head of Xbox come up and open up the show, and then you had Phil Spencer take over, who's the current head of Xbox, kind of talking about where things are and what we've done. Slideshows, couple little clips here and there of different things. Um, but overall, at least I think with the big thing ending there, that Halo Infinite's multiplayer going live on the actual 20th anniversary, was the star of the show more than anything. Oh no, I'm sorry, I did forget a couple other things. More specifically, one big thing in particular, and that is we are getting a Halo live action television series through Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely spaced that part there. Yeah, I'm like I completely forgot all about that one there. That the thing is that there wasn't really much about it though that you know was
Other than it's coming to Paramount Plus,
yeah.
it's gonna be about Master Chief.
Yeah, it was very memorable. It wasn't very memorable in some cases because it was just very short, sweet, and to the point of just like, okay, it's like there is something coming. But there's no indication of exactly like what timeline it's going to fall into necessarily, like what it's going to be, what it's going to really be about, other than Master Chief. But Cortana's there, so because if it is Cortana with Master Chief, at least in that regard, then it could take place between Halo. I think it's Halo 1 through 4. So any of the games, at least at that point, is where it's going to happen at. So, but anyway, I think that was really the only other thing. One interesting thing of note, though, that did get announced, and I don't know if you saw this, Kyle. I may actually end up picking up this controller, but the Xbox 20th anniversary, the 20th anniversary controller that they came out with, not only has Phil Spencer's signature on it. I think it's under the battery cover, but when you get it and pair it up to your Xbox, you actually get a Xbox 360 dynamic wallpaper for your console, and it's the only way you can get it.
What?
It's not the blades
Okay,
though.
I
It's not the blades. From my understanding, from the way I've seen it so far, it looks more like the teardrop kind of green background that we had in the
oh,
first revision of
okay.
of the Xbox dashboard, where it went from the blades to the oh, I don't remember exactly what to call it, but it had like the panels that you'd actually like kind of stagger through. Yeah. So that was that. But I mean, it looks nice. It looks really cool, but that's, of course, in the eyes of the beholder. So, but sorry,
Oh,
Kyle.
I just want them to bring back the blades. They worked so smooth and they looked really cool and they have that swoosh noise.
I know, I know, I know. It's okay though, Kyle. It's okay. Calm down. It's
I'm
all
not
right.
the only one. There are people out there
I
like me.
I know. I want it too, but I've got to accept the fact that it probably won't happen.
Uh,
You have to do the same.
no.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Well, we're gonna move on
In
then
the
anyway.
future, we'll petition. We're gonna make it happen, people.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But let's talk about our second story here. And our second story, of course, still dives into Halo and to Xbox stuff here. But the announcement came out yesterday that Halo Infinite's co-op campaign and Forge mode have been delayed further. So it was originally announced several months ago that because of the effort they've been putting into the standard multiplayer as well as the actual campaign, that the co-op campaign mode and Forge mode were going to be delayed into early next year. However, they have now officially pushed that date out, which means that those modes, which have been mainstays in the game since, at least for the co-op, it's been the mainstay since day one. For Forge, it's been there since Halo 3. It's going to be a longer wait now to be able to have those functions available. They announced again in August. They announced it in August, but that there was going to be the delay. But then they announced again on Friday that it's going to be much farther out, which looks like it's probably going to be happening sometime in the midst of the next season of the multiplayer. So we probably won't see it till maybe May of next year. Potentially August at the latest. So,
I'm okay with that though.
well, it means you and I can't play it.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. I like going through the Halos at least initially and trying to play through it myself just to get the story.
Okay.
That and because I oftentimes when I play through shooters, I'll wander around like an idiot for hours. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that, not have someone be like, "Come on, we gotta go, we gotta go," and I'm like, "Oh, this is really cool. Look at this effect. Look at this particle effect." And yeah, no, it doesn't work with two players sometimes.
That's, I guess, you know what? I'll give you that credit there. I guess that's a fair thing to say there. But I mean, yeah, I guess if you're not too concerned about it, then, such is life.
I
But
mean, that and like you said, co-op wasn't around until Halo 2, right?
no, so they had campaign co-op in the original campaign for Halo Combat Evolved. The only
Oh,
the only
okay.
thing about it though is
Oh,
that it was
that's right.
just
I
you played
remember
as
that.
another Master Chief, and that was it.
Right, and then in Halo 3 you played as the Arbiter.
Yes, and then, well, yeah,
Right.
you played as the Arbiter, and then especially in Halo 2 when you played as the Arbiter in his own in his own like story missions, you actually
Mhm.
had, I think it was either Halo 2 or 3, you had other elites with you. Instead, that as you're, if you're playing that, you'd have player 1 as the Arbiter and player 2, 3, and 4 as other elites that were kind of a part of
Right,
like the
right.
Arbiter's Guard. So yeah, that was a big part of it. So, hi, Puppo. Hi, dog. The dog wanted to come in and talk about the news too. Hi,
Oh.
you're a chilly dog. Go, 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 go. Get out of here. Okay. So, with those delays, though, of course, I mean, I'm a little upset, little disappointed about it because I think for every Halo game except 5, because it took me forever to finally play through 5. Every other one of those, I've at least had some type of campaign co-op experience. Usually immediately after I go through and play it myself once.
Ah, see? So
No, no,
even
but
you
but
go
no.
through and
But here's the thing though, is that because the campaign usually hasn't been that long, I mean, you're talking about maybe like 10 to 15 hours max for campaign. I
yeah.
know this one's going to be longer. It's like, okay, if I can sit down and play it through in an entire week, then I'm good. I'm covered, no problem. And then it's usually like the following week, I'm hopping into the campaign co-op.
I will give you that. I'm usually right into trying to get a co-op partner for campaign. as soon as I'm done with it, because I'm like, okay, let's see how fast we can get through this, and
Well,
let's see
it's
if
not
we.
even just that. It's also upping the difficulty.
Oh yeah, and trying out the different skulls and stuff.
Right. I like playing on just normal difficulty when I'm playing it on my own for the first go, just because
Hmm.
I don't want necessarily a challenge. I mean, I wouldn't mind a little bit of it, but I would much rather like be able to take in what's going on in the story, what's going on in the scenery, the backstory, behind the scenes type stuff that, like how are these soldiers interacting? What are the Covenant doing over here in this area? Now the Banished, of course. Like what exactly is going on instead of it just being a constant just a battle to stay alive. I'd much rather enjoy it that way. Then going into the campaign co-op, it's like, okay, now we can start experiencing these things with a little bit more oomph because we've already gotten most of the story. And then you're right, the skulls. The skulls are just
Oh yeah,
exactly
got to
it.
get that grunt birthday in.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to get a stream deck here. So that way, whenever we talk about something like that, I got to put that sound on it. Something like that. So I
Right,
could just press that button and just, yeah.
that'd be
Um,
awesome.
it's one day it'll come up. But yeah, with that delay, of course, that means that we're not going to be seeing it till next year. It's a little disappointing. There's nothing really in Forge that I can say I'm going to miss per se. We're still going to get all the multiplayer stuff anyway that came out of Forge too, like stuff like Griff Balls, one example. We're going to have our zombies mode, or infected, excuse me. SWAT will come back in multiplayer no matter what too. We've got all of our ranked stuff already starting off now. So there's a lot of it. I'm not deeply concerned, but it is a shame to see these mainstays not hitting day one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not too. Now that we've been talking about it, I think over the two, I'd probably say co-op campaign. I'd be more upset that it's missing. Forge, I know I have friends that play Forge. I'm just not really into it, you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, I dabbled a little bit in
There's
it,
some
but
stuff you can do that's
yeah,
super fun in it. I mean, it's a complete sandbox for Halo, but I just personally couldn't get into it.
yeah, it does require a little bit of extra work to be able to put things
Hmm.
together. I agree with that. But even so, of course, now that we got to wait on that, let's move on to talking about some other chaos in the world, and this is going to definitely be fun. Um, and that is the Game Awards nomination list because Game Awards is a big thing. We not only get all these different games earning these different awards, being nominated for them, we also get a lot of reveals and exclusive trailers. Like 2 years ago, we got the announcement of the Xbox Series X and actually got to see it.
Hmm.
Not necessarily like in person, but we got a pretty good view of it at that point in time. Um, but yeah, the list is dropped. And what I'm curious about from you, Kyle, is what do you think of the list so far? Like, how much of it have you looked at? Like, what do you think about what's in there?
I mean, I've looked at most of the categories. I don't know if I necessarily agree with probably like best indie game. There were some different ones that I would have said, but um I don't know. I think they've pretty much nailed it. It makes me look back at the year and go, wow, there really wasn't a ton that released this year as far as like true blockbuster titles. Like looking at the game of the years, I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. I could swap maybe one title, but that's about right.
Yeah, there was a lot of it that I was looking through here too, and I'm about the exact same way that it just feels like there hasn't been a lot this year. It doesn't mean to say that it's like it's been a desert or we've been in a video game drought of any type where we haven't been playing any types of new games or even anything exciting. It's just the limits of them. I mean, hell, February of this next year is going to be a war zone of video games. Like it's going to be just
Mhm.
chaotic to figure out what to play. Uh, even
Well,
so
and
with
there's some of the titles that are getting released then that should have been released this year too. So
oh
that's
yeah.
part of the problem.
And even that also includes continuing support for games that release this year, like especially anything that gets new modes, new maps. It's going to be man, it's going to be interesting to see how this next year really looks. Um, but let's kind of like talk about a couple of these things here. So, of course, in the Game of the Year awards, we've got Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. I would say, yeah, that's probably exactly what I would expect. I'm guessing that Forza Horizon 5 probably missed the cutoff date for when they do these nominations.
I don't think so. Whoa, what happened on my screen?
You just
Oh,
blow up your computer?
I accidentally opened something. Um, I don't
Same,
think
same, same,
so
same.
because you go to what is it? I think it's best sports and racing, and
Oh, it
there's
is
Forza
there.
5.
Wow. I actually would have
So
expected that to be up there maybe in the.
yeah,
Huh.
as far as racing games go, if there was ever going to be one that made game of the year, this would have been the one. I feel like it just it hit all the marks, and
Hmm.
the tuning and stuff and the way the cars feel, it just feels real and real good. So,
Yeah, I would put that there especially. That's why it's like I'm a little surprised to have not seen it there. But you're right, I must have missed that in the. I think when I see sports, I kind of just tune out because of Madden and FIFA. It's like,
most of the time
meh.
I do too.
Yeah, but what I am actually very happy to see here is one game in particular that's been nominated in two categories. It was nominated in Best Multiplayer and nominated in Best Debut Indie, and that's Valheim.
Oh yeah.
That actually kind of made me happy because that was my jam for God, a solid 2 days worth of playing according to Steam. I think I've put just about 50 hours into that game,
Holy cow.
and
Well, you
it's
were on it like every day for like a month.
oh yeah, because like the people I was playing with, we were doing everything. Like I mean, we had a whole system set up of things that we were working on and putting together, and it was awesome. Like it was a really
Hmm.
enjoyable experience. But it got to a point where we actually hit the end boss. Like we hit the final boss in there, and there was more to explore, but we really weren't feeling it. And I know they've had some big updates since then. We just haven't done anything there. But that doesn't mean necessarily that it's something to avoid. It actually is still a rather decent game, and maybe I should actually go and update that and actually give that a try, see if my friend's server is still up and running. But it is kind of cool to actually see that it, at least has made those two categories. That makes me a
I
little
still have
happier.
it installed. I haven't finished it, but I really enjoyed it. I played a ton of it. Probably not nearly as much as you, but I played quite a bit of it, and we started to figure out systems. But at one point, we had one of the Black Forests clear, like literally completely clear cut.
See, we didn't do that. Well, the only place I did any clear cutting is I'd have a troll come after me, and I just let him swipe around with the massive tree that he was
Oh,
swinging at me with. And if you just do that, he just does it for you, and then you just go back
oh
around and
yeah.
chop everything down. You save yourself the trouble. It's really nice. Um,
I
but
will say though, I've managed to dodge his like tree that he's swinging around, only to be killed by a tree that he fell with his swing.
I think I had that happen once. I more so would try to get the trolls and oh, I can't remember the other names. They were kind of like the little um I don't want to say woodland creatures there because I know that's not right.
Oh, the little
Um
miniature ant things.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'd have them kind of like try to go against each other in some cases. Then
Oh
it's like you
yeah,
just hop in a boat and sail by and you just see them like beating the hell out of each other and it's just like
and you're
works
just
for
like,
me. That's just leather
now
to
I don't
pick
have
up
to do
later
the
on.
hard
Yeah,
work.
exactly. But the list I think is pretty well set up. One of the interesting things that I did notice is that for the first year in the last several is that Overwatch League did not make it into the top esports event nomination. And there's actually no nominations for any Overwatch League teams or even any Overwatch League players. So that was an interesting one to see.
Hmm.
Again, it's for the first time in the last several years. So I don't know. But hey, there you go. But the full list itself, though, I mean, if you want to go listen to the full nominations, You can go look up. Jeff Keighley did actually put up a video on the Game Awards YouTube page, so you can go and listen to him talking about it. Fan voting is open right now too on the Game Awards website, so you can go over there and pick out which games are going to be like you would vote for the different categories. I believe that closes sometime here in the next couple weeks because the event itself, I think, was December 8th or 9th. December 9th.
And so we've got to do our actual game of the year discussion probably here in the next week or two then.
Yeah, and I'm very like I think we need to get a hold of Preston, and I think we need to bring him on to do this too.
Yeah.
I think so. I think we need to get his feedback on it. I know he's played quite a few games, but I think we need to go ahead and start building up our own list though and start figuring it out. Maybe we can invite some other people there too to kind of have a nice discussion about what came out this year. You and I will talk about that separately here offline in another discussion. But yeah, go check out the Game Awards website to get that full list and go vote on it, of course, soon. Next thing, of course, though, is going to be really more of the fun. And of course, that is a lot of the chaos, is that Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition did go back on sale on PC, and Rockstar issued an apology for it.
Yeah.
That's really all I should say about it. Let's just move on to the next story. Anyway. In reality, I forgot. I didn't actually have a back button on the slideshow to do the titles here. Let me just go ahead and go back to that here. Damn it, that didn't work out. Okay. So the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, the Definitive Edition, is supposed to be the remastered versions of Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. They were announced, of course, and then released this last week, but of course then the PC versions were taken down due to files that were not supposed to actually be there. They said unintentionally included files. I think we talked about this in last week's news. But they did put it back on sale on PC's digital storefronts, and the stuff was removed, no problem. Of course, the things that were found were the hot coffee scenes and scripting was still there. There was a bunch of unlicensed music. It came back, but it still came back to the ire of fans because even with that stuff being removed, the game still had graphical issues. I saw a video of someone.
It ran like poop.
I saw a video of someone playing Grand Theft Auto 3, and as they were swerving their car back and forth, the car was actually stretching. The car was actually starting to stretch across the map itself or across the road, and so it would flatten, but then it would also expand out as it flattened, and so you'd have this one car. It was really bizarre. I don't understand where things actually fell apart.
Well, and like I said, in the in a Game Ranks video, they had talked about an area in, I believe it's Grand Theft Auto 3, that you pull up to a park, and if you drive into the park at all, you can just fall through the mesh and it'll drop you, and then you'll fall back out on the street somewhere.
Well, while we talk about it, I'm going to have this compilation from GameSpot up right now showing off some of the glitches in that people have come across in... Oh, my God.
And, it's funny that one of the things that people have mentioned is so bad is the rain. And,
yeah.
Oh, my God, some of these are just horrible.
It's the face from when you're flying the Harrier that just did it to me. That's going to just haunt me. I'm going to go to sleep tonight, and that's all it's going to be.
I like the broken arm fighting. That's pretty weird.
So the game is still not without its glitches. I mean, this video here was published by GameSpot on the 17th. It's the 20th now, so that would have been Tuesday. Sorry, that just freaked me the hell out, and it still has. But yeah, on Tuesday is when they dropped this, of course, or Wednesday, excuse me. But what just really doesn't make sense is just how bad things are still going, with this game in general. And so Rockstar actually released an apology here. I'm going to get out of the video. Maybe we'll come back to it for background stuff in a minute.
I can't have that going on the side.
I know.
That's just too ridiculous.
So Rockstar dropped a blog post on the 19th over on their website and said, here's basically what they said. First, we want to sincerely apologize to everyone who has encountered issues playing these games. The Grand Theft Auto series and the games that make up this iconic trilogy are as special to us as we know they are to fans around the world. The updated versions of these classic games did not launch in a state that meets our own standards of quality or the standards our fans have come to expect. We have ongoing plans to address the technical issues and to improve each game going forward. With each planned update, the games will reach the level of quality that they deserve to be. So they are putting updates out. It looks like this most recent update has not addressed all of the issues from things I've been reading on Twitter so far today. But one of the bigger things that they announced out of all of this is that, and I'll read this verbatim from their post, we will be adding the classic PC versions of Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas back to the Rockstar Store shortly as a bundle. Additionally, everyone who has purchased Grand Theft Auto the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition for PC from the Rockstar Store through June 30th, 2022, so that's summer next year, will receive these classic versions in their Rockstar Games launcher library at no additional cost. They pulled the
I'm
games...
almost tempted to buy it just for that.
Right, but it's just funny that it's the fact that they removed these games to be able to release this remastered version, and now they realize that the remastered version that they contracted out to another company was absolute garbage, and now they've got to go back and re-release the originals as an apology.
Well, it's not even that.
It's weird.
They released it to their mobile department, so all the people that work on like their cell phone versions of the Rockstar games.
Yeah, I don't understand why. I don't get what happened. Like,
Yeah, especially since all the versions that they put out on cell phones worked just fine. And one of the things, sorry to go back to it, but like the rain, I while we were sitting here, it was like playing the trailer for the definitive edition, in the article that you sent me,
mm-hmm.
and the rain looks fine in the trailer. So I don't know why it looks like white snow, while you're playing on just a regular HD TV. It's bad.
Makes me think that there was something there in the development that they were actually messing with that caused the problems that introduced that. Because you're right, the rain does look like garbage in there. It's very sorry. It's just you'll see it here in a second. Just it involves a car and a cutscene.
Oh, I get
but
you.
anyway, so yeah, it doesn't make sense like why it would be successful there. But we saw the same thing in some other stuff. Like you remember when Watch Dogs was originally announced and the way it looked. Yeah, so you're seeing it now.
Yeah,
because when Watch Dogs was fuck, that one was pretty funny too. When Watch Dogs was announced, it looked very different to the actual release of the game, and now it looks like, I mean, it looks still very different. There are a lot of things that they didn't fix. There are a lot of things that they didn't address. But yeah, it definitely looked very different from the original version, or from what they were showing off. That's kind of what I feel like with this, is that there's something in the development that they were doing that caused those problems.
Right.
And a breakdancing car just killed somebody over here on my screen. That's just...
I'm trying not to look.
That's just... I had to put it up because this is just really funny stuff.
Like, you're going to have to send me that video. I'm going to have to look it up or something.
Someone just fell through the mesh right there on a beach while riding a motorcycle. You were right. Oh, is this the park one? Yep. Then they go right through the mesh again, too. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and these are just places that are open that normally you'd be able to visit them just fine. And this shouldn't happen, but yet there it is.
Yeah,
plain as day happening.
I agree.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I really wish I knew like why things like just went
So some of the issues in this kind of remind me, I'll be honest, of the issues that they had with True Crime Streets of LA.
Oh yeah,
Like it just wasn't a finished game, and they had all sorts of bugs like this.
Sorry, I really should get away from this now because this is starting to become more of a problem for me, like you just said it was for you.
I just saw a helicopter try and land, and then the base tried to take off.
It Beybladed. Someone yelled out, "Let her rip," and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get distracted by that either, but it's just like you hear about some of these glitches, but then you actually see them, and it's just like... Anyway,
it's like watching the cyberpunk glitches. It shouldn't exist, but it's super funny. But at the same time, it's really not, because people put a ton of time and effort into it, but obviously they didn't put enough, or they overworked it. I don't know, what happened. Someone dropped the ball, and then you get an unfinished product or a product that's bad.
Yeah, I agree. I still don't understand it either as to like with um with Cyberpunk 2077, there's a lot going on there because that was a brand new release. That was something that
Hmm.
feels like it should have had the polish and effort put behind it that it should not have been the way that it was. And I think
But
they really
on
rushed
the
that.
same
Yeah.
aspect, these are games that already existed. They just polished them up graphically. They added a little bit of content.
Right,
And
but
it's not an extreme amount of
right, but the
content.
modders even beforehand with the original versions of 3 Vice City and San Andreas did a better job than this.
Yeah.
So why it's actually appeared to be in this state, like why it was released in this state, and how the quality checks at Rockstar didn't pass here, or like how they weren't caught, like how they failed, it just doesn't make sense. So as
Yeah, I
funny
I
as it is
I could
there, but
recall a texture pack for, I think it was San Andreas, that it was, modders obviously came out with it like 4 or so years ago, but I could have swore you were playing it on the 3090 I've got in my computer. The graphics look that awesome.
geez,
Reflections on the cars. There was water. The water detail and stuff. the- it was like they used the same code that fixed Watch Dogs, and then they took that and applied it to a Rockstar game, and it just worked awesome or something. I don't know, something to that effect. But yeah, it,
I, I agree. I 100% agree with you. I do. Um, Yeah, it'll be neat to see though. I think that if they're going to be re-releasing the classic versions back on PC, that means anybody who had the mods can just go and throw those back on and be like, "This is what Definitive Edition should have been. This is what we should have actually had."
yeah, and maybe because Rockstar for a long time supported the modding community, and then only recently, within the last couple years, they were like, "Oh no, this is bad. Modder is bad." But maybe if they started supporting it, you wouldn't see some of the like massive amount of cheating, because you could just say, okay, you modders are going to be in your own thing. You can't be part of, the main game. This has got to be its own separate thing. And they can let people still have fun with the code, still make their own modes,
Mm-hmm.
do funny things like superheroes and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. But let's take the chaos of what Grand Theft Auto is and actually move on to maybe a bright spot in the world, especially of classic games.
Oh
Um,
yes.
is the news that came out that Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, um, is a is really trying to push, or at least try to make it known, that there should be paths for legal emulation. Emulation, of course, is what we're aware of is being able to take a software derived version of what a video game console could do and being able to use copies of video games in a logical just software form and being able to put them together and play games of yore. Presently, unless you own the titles, that's illegal. But now, of course, we've got the news that Phil Spencer really wants to explore legal avenues to support legal emulation. And it's funny, of course, we're talking about this. I mean, it's a big piece of news this week, but this actually is kind of a teaser for our podcast for our NPCs Discuss this next week, is
Hmm.
talking about emulation. So I mean, yeah, but what do you think about that? Like, what do you think about like Phil Spencer? I mean, it's the head of one of the big three for hardware manufacturers when it comes to video games, actually stepping up and saying we need to come up with some sort of legal way for there to be emulation in our field. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. I mean, it not only is a way to keep video games preserved, but be able to show off, what games we used to play to a newer generation, or even enjoy the games we used to play that we're not able to anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter, and especially a legal matter, of making it happen. It's a massive endeavor. I don't know how they're gonna accomplish it. Um, Spoiler, we talk about, there's gonna be there are presently different ways emulation occurs. So it's hard to say how they would go about it, but I think it's great, and I really hope more people in the industry back it.
I really hope so too. I think Microsoft has already done the best so far with what they've put out in their backwards compatibility library, what's available in Game Pass. PlayStation, of course, has PlayStation Now, which is another option, though, too. However, it doesn't seem to be as supported, of course, as Game Pass is. And Nintendo is Nintendo.
See, and I would almost argue that PlayStation Now is probably more supported than Game Pass, but it's just not. It's not advertised. It's supported in the fact that it has to support itself, and it does a good job at supporting itself, but it just supports itself. They can't do advertising for it all the time. They don't want to, like, it's not like they're searching for members or anything, because it's a system that works for the few people that use it.
True. Yeah, that's very true. Like right now, like if I like I don't own a PlayStation. Okay,
Mhm.
I have not owned a PlayStation since the PlayStation 2 Slim. And I could go on and pay for PlayStation Now and play games that were on the PlayStation 5, like Last of Us Part 2 is right there.
Mhm.
And it's available until January. Like I'm actually looking at their list of things right now. But if I wanted to go back and play anything on here, I mean, there's like, I wonder if they have any of the classic like Star Wars games that I used to play on here as a kid. Like, um, I'm just taking a look here. Sorry, I don't mean to kind of get off on anything
Oh
else.
no, you're good. I'm kind of curious because every now and then they come up with deals on the membership, and I've kind of been curious because this is something that apparently does work on your PC as well.
It's not even it does. It's on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and PC. But like,
But it kind of makes me curious. How does that work for the games that you you have to download to the system?
not sure. I think a lot of it might still be streaming in some form. I'm not actually sure how all of it works. But you go through their list and they've got tons of games in here. They aren't even first party games. There are a lot of like third party games too, like Dead Space 3 is here on the list. I mean, if you want to play some old Dynasty Warriors games, those are on here too. Uh, like if I go back and look at like even Final Fantasy stuff, I'm sure there's probably a bit here. Like the original Final Fantasy 7's there, Final Fantasy 8 remastered, Final Fantasy 9. Um, I mean, at least there's a decent amount of things on here to play. Like even the original God of War. I'm talking like the first God of War, not the remastered God of War, but there's a couple things out here at least that I can pick out from those points in time that are at least there. Hell, if you want to play some PSP versions like Chains of Olympus and Ghosts of Sparta are on there too. So it's like PlayStation has a variety of things, and so it's like they've made a nice effort to be able to put a lot of their stuff out there for people to play. Their bigger problem, though, of course, is that you're right; they don't market it enough, and it's
Mm.
like I just don't know how I would. Um, it's like if I were to do this. It's like I guess it looks like I just have to go buy a PlayStation controller, either a DualShock 4 or a DualSense, and then sign in with my PlayStation Network account that I probably still have left over from my PlayStation. Or I guess I should take that back. My last console that I owned of a PlayStation was the Vita, was the second gen Vita.
Oh
Um,
man, and you got rid of it.
yeah, I had to pay for a hotel room for something some way, so sue me. um, but
Fair enough.
at least it is an option though that I could go play some of these things on PC. But it is all streaming. It is not actually saving the games to your PC and playing them that way. It is streaming the games to your PC.
Hmm.
But it is there. Okay. So at least there's that.
It's an
But
option.
yeah. But anyway, that's on Sony's front. On Nintendo's front, a lot of it is really reselling you those same games over and over again. Sure, of course, with Nintendo Switch Online, I think there's a lot I think their title library is actually pretty good uh, for NES, SNES. Now, of course, N64 has a few things out there too, and of course, now we got Genesis for some reason. As long as you pay for expansion pack, you can get those last two. But then, of course, they go and basically repackage and resell these games in different forms.
Mhm.
Hell, the NES Classic, the the SNES Classic. They're all there. It's like that's how they do it. It's just they haven't come up with another effort to put everything together into just one nice, neat, and easy package.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So Nintendo's kind of the interesting one, but then of course it comes down to the third parties, is how exactly they handled redistributing their games too. And if Rockstar's any indication from the previous story, holy crap, they really need to figure out how they're going to handle some of these older titles, like, because obviously remastering them is not the way to go for them. No, thank you.
Right.
Yeah. But do you have any other comments here on the emulation stuff, Kyle? Any of the other interesting things to think about on this?
Not too many. I don't want to spoil anything for the topic. I really want people to check it out. It's something interesting, and I think emulation is gonna be something big in the future. So definitely give it a listen, guys.
Yes, please go listen to it. Please go subscribe to our podcast and listen. We miss you. We need you. You need us. Go do it.
Yeah.
It's
do it.
It's podcast ASMR talking about video games.
Absolutely.
Not really. I mean, if you hear us like maybe taking a drink of something, or
I don't want it to be too ASMR-y. Then that puts people to sleep sometimes. So I don't.
But then it means that they listen to the entire episode without actually listening to the entire episode, and it counts as a listen. So.
Does it?
Oh God. Anyway, let's carry on before I say anything else I might regret. So we're on to the last story here, and unfortunately, like, we've covered this topic enough that I've got to be perfectly honest with all of you here, and I think I've probably said this before. I'm so done with covering this topic. I am so fed up with covering what's been going on since this summer that I'm totally fed up right now with all of this. So, of course, our last story here is talking about Activision Blizzard. So, summarizing, of course, for what people may not be aware of, is that Activision Blizzard was sued by the state of California back in June for reports of discrimination and sexual harassment of women, of people of color, of contractors. The sexual harassment and stuff went so far that actually one former employee actually ended up committing suicide over it. You've had many that have been traumatized and scarred by their experiences that they had, because Activision Blizzard, especially Blizzard, was really the focus of a lot of it, was really a boys club, and a good old boys club in some regard. Well, as those lawsuits have been going on, a lot of people have been speaking out, and a lot of ties have been severed with Activision Blizzard. It came out to light this week that Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Activision Blizzard, was apparently a part of some of these issues, more so in the fact that he also harassed several people that reported to him, and a lot of the issues that came up, a lot of the misconduct that came up, he basically just swept under the rug and never reported up the chain as he was supposed to do as the CEO. And so, because of course, a lot of these things going on, and not only the state of California lawsuit, but the Federal Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, the ones who actually regulate the stock market, are currently investigating, because it's technically considered falsifying information to investors, which is pretty illegal. And a lot of people are calling for his ousting as his position as CEO. But now this week, both CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Jim Ryan, and Xbox head Phil Spencer, who we've talked about several times already in this stream, both have put out letters to their own companies and their own orgs saying how disappointed they are in what has been going on. They've made announcements, of course, and have shared letters of support for the victims as well, too, and for the devs. But while they shared more information out, of course, about what it was about Bobby Kotick, Phil Spencer actually went and said that they are starting to evaluate the aspects of the relationship between Xbox and Activision Blizzard. Which, to be quite honest with you, if you want systematic change to be able to happen, you need to hit them where it's going to hurt. And for a lot of these big companies, it's going to be their wallet. I don't want to get into any of the stories of the things. I think Kyle, you and I are probably pretty burned out because when we were doing Open Critic stuff, we actually had to read through the legal documents and actually kind of get ourselves up to speed on things when we were writing stuff for that. But um, he needs to go. Bobby Kotick needs
Yeah.
to go. I don't think
Well,
there's
and
any other way to say it.
like Jim Ryan pointed out, he's got buddies on the board that all are just like, "Oh, he's fine." So, yeah, they all need to go. It's not just Bobby Kotick. It's other members of the board that they're obviously part of the problem if you're not trying to solve it.
Yeah, it's
But
because of that. Like I mentioned, it's a part of that good old boys club that actually exists up there. And you have a lot of
yeah.
shareholders who actually are stepping up and saying, he needs to get out of there. He needs to go. And so I'm sure that as soon as it comes around, because Activision Blizzard's a public company, that when it comes around time for shareholder voting to occur, which there will be, they will vote no on, and probably on all of those other board members about them remaining in their positions.
Oh yeah,
There's going to be a lot of
definitely.
that. Yeah.
And I I I feel like, if without stepping down, that it's already going to be difficult to get into any position at this point, for any of those guys being under such, a microscope for so long now.
Yeah.
But just making it worse by not stepping down and, kind of acknowledging it and trying to make amends, trying to see what you can do to, you know, provide support to the people that were hurt by everything, you know. It's not just the one person that unfortunately did lose their life, and it's sad that it came to that, but it shouldn't have ever gone that far, and it's more than just that one person.
Yeah, and the issue, of course, of what's going on at Activision Blizzard and what things have been occurring right now anyway, is that it's not just Activision Blizzard. It is an industry wide problem. I mean, it's even before the stuff came out for Activision Blizzard, we like the stories out of Ubisoft have been pretty bad, and we just still haven't seen really any good forward movement on that, like what we're seeing right now at Activision Blizzard. But maybe it's
Well, and
because Activision Blizzard might be a little bit bigger than Ubisoft, at least in some form. I'm not necessarily sure, but
yeah, and this type of behavior is becoming too prevalent in the gaming industry. Too many companies are starting to mirror each other. It's astonishing that no one's come and said anything, and it's been brought to attention like this before. But I guess in a sense, it's good that we're having to deal with it now. Um, so maybe we can learn from this, and hopefully developers will see what's happened with Blizzard and Activision and go, no, we're not gonna travel down that path.
yeah, I 100% agree. I really hope that we actually start to see a lot more of a tidal wave of change across the industry. But
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna say this right now, at least as I'm on my soapbox, as I stand up on it, and I stand here, is that the change is going to begin with us. The change is going to begin
Hmm.
with us as the gamers and what we will tolerate in our pastime in basically our industry. I mean, it's funny to admit it, of course, but really because Kyle and I report on the news here with video games, especially because that's where a lot of our focus has been at as of late. It feels like we have to hold these people accountable, and we're not a big organization here ourselves. It's just us doing all these different things here. But, it starts with even going so far as just the gamers themselves. We have to be able to
Hmm.
stand up and say that the way these companies that we originally loved and supported are treating their employees are causing this type of harm, that it's unacceptable, and we have to be able to stand up and say no more. And that's why I'm probably for a while now, or at least probably a long while, as I'm officially done with anything out of Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Overwatch and Call of Duty stuff is gone. Like, I've spent enough time in both those games. I spent a lot of time. I mean, I got my Call of Duty stuff here behind me, which will probably end up pulling down and replacing with something else. But um, I mean, I think the only thing Activision Blizzard that'll probably stay up on my wall is the Overwatch League stuff that I've got over here in a frame. But that was just because my kids and I went to an actual Overwatch League event. And, you know, that was something that was more of a family thing there because we were all into Overwatch League at that point in time. But yeah, it's like I can't really stand by and support a lot of these things just because that's where it's got to really start. Is that's where we've really got to be able to speak up and say, no, we're not going to support anymore as you continue to allow these things to occur and not properly address the situation. And the only way that's going to start is by getting rid of Bobby Kotick, first and foremost. He's got to go. And then everybody...
That's the next step.
Yeah, and then
I don't even think that's the final step.
That's
just the next.
Well, yeah. Out of the steps that have already been taken so far, the first big step to start making real, true change about anything is going to be Bobby Kotick leaving the company, and then any of the board members who have supported him through this, in the sense of basically saying no, he's fine. We have no evidence of any of these problems, even with everything that's come to light. They also need to go too.
But in that same aspect, I feel like, you know, people at Blizzard and Activision, other members of the board, other major shareholders have to be seeing, you know, the employees walk out, fans stand up and talk about it and say, maybe it's time for something to be done because we're going to be losing money if we don't.
Yep, exactly. Because that, again, hit them where it hurts. Mm-hmm. And for a company that big, it's going to be their wallet. So, yeah, but all right, I'm off my soapbox for now on that one, of course, because it is time actually for us to wrap up all of this. We went on a little over here our normal schedule, but we did talk about all that stuff anyway, though. So that is actually it for our news live stream. Of course, for anything that we missed, we'll probably catch up on in the quick save coming up this next week. So be sure, of course, you're watching us here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you can see when all that stuff goes live. With, of course, Halo Infinite having released this week. The multiplayer part of it, of course, Kyle and I will try to do some joint live streams to be able to go ahead and play some of that. And you guys can see exactly how good we are in some cases and maybe how terrible we are in others. That's, of course, all just going to depend on perspective and so on. So, of course, be sure to be on the lookout for a lot of that, though, too. Also, of course, though, you can check us out on social media, on Facebook and Twitter at the NPCs Podcast. Go make sure to go ahead and find those. Those links are actually here on our YouTube page. Go and grab those and go and follow us there, too. But our big thing, of course, is the podcast, like Kyle alluded to. We have a new episode of the NPCs Discuss coming up this next week where we are talking about and going a little bit more in depth on the emulation industry as well as its future. So be sure to go ahead and listen in on that one and provide us your thoughts, of course, too. We will have Q&A that you can interact with, fan polls as well, too, that are actually built in as long as you listen to it on Spotify. So you can even go over to Spotify and actually take part in that if you're listening on a different platform. Really helps us out, of course, because your engagement is what keeps us going as well. So it's really appreciated when you do hop in. But of course, with that is it for the news. So Kyle, thanks again for joining me as always on doing this. And yeah, we'll catch you all in the next one.
Catch you laters.